It's been 1 year since the Legends of Arkain series has wrapped up and the finale was released by Shardundred with Gates of Hell. And here we are, almost exactly a year later, and we have Legacy of Arkain teaser trailer released by none other than Shardundred himself. The layout here is Warcraft 3. I have not watched this yet. This is a reaction to the teaser trailers. If you want to watch it uninterrupted, you've got to go to Shar's channel and watch it yourself. I'm very excited for this. I don't know if this is a campaign or a mini campaign or a standalone map or what. So let's get started. A new age has begun. An age of peace and freedom. And yet there are still scores to be settled, debts to be paid. 20 years have passed since the last Great War. All right. I was wondering about this. I was wondering if Arkain was going somewhere. I had no idea. Shar was going to create something that took place soon after the Legends of Arkain that followed Sir Praxius, and he was making it in a different game, and then he talked about it in the Arkain forums about how that didn't end up really working out based on the limitations of that game. So it seems like we're back in Warcraft 3. And I was curious about when the narrative would pick up, because you've got this interbellum period, which I'm calling it that, between the end of Legends of Arkain and then this 20 years period where there's this extremely tense Cold War between Juinor and Carol. Tribal Dominion is just vibing, and they have their non-aggression pact with Juinor, but in many ways that's also a bit of a Cold War. I think Rengar has some sort of plague, and a big portion of it is quarantined. The Empire is coming back. There's a lot of short stories that take place right at the tail end of this interbellum period that tee up this 20 years later set piece here that we're seeing here. Again, let's keep going because I'm curious if this is what this is. It is time for a new one. Well, they got 20 good years, you know? Choose your path. Path of the Dragon. I will burn down their armies. I will burn down their cities, their inquisitors, their nobles. I will burn down their whole country. Grand Duke Thanak. Bring me Dorton alive, kill everyone else, and if the old fool somehow ends up dying, bring him back to life so I can kill him again, and he will pay for what he did. Okay. Now, this is based on my knowledge of the short stories. I'd have to go and reread them. But again, a lot of the short stories take place at the very end of, again, what I call the interbellum period, where this post-20 years period, it seemed like there's a big powder keg and it's starting to go off, hence Legacy of Arkain. I think right at the end of this, one of Gardon's sons stages like an attack into Carol, and I'm wondering if he was captured. Because it says he will pay for what he did. You've completely lost control of yourself. Cease this madness at once. You must recall your forces. We need to focus our attention elsewhere. Grand Duke Biram. Biram also a Grand Duke. I think Biram is the Grand Duke of Isilmore. I'm not sure what area Thanak got. Vale, one of my favorite characters from Juinar. She was always kind of she felt like she's a strong character who also was fairly grounded, but my understanding is she just sort of became more and more despondent as time passed. Again, 20 years is a really long time. It's going to be really difficult, I think, for me and other players/watchers of whatever this is to separate that in their mind. Because, again, it feels like this is like right after Legacy of Arkain, but a lot can happen in 20 years. That's a very, very long time. You two might have forgotten what loyalty means. I haven't. I will save my liege, and if I have to burn down this entire continent, nay, the entire world, to do it. I think we saw Gardon in that first scene, so I feel like it's got to be one of his sons. Path of the Circle. The world has been the toy of greater powers ever since its creation. Their intrigues, their games, their selfishness has caused one war after the other. Even in their absence, their mark on this world remained. Korra, I think she's like full-on Xernexus. Eridon has influenced the events of mortal kind far more than he himself might acknowledge, believing that he kept some arbitrary balance he couldn't understand himself. Barazel's shadows and magic were never fully gone. Even by the time of the Second Void War, some of the shadows remained active, and then he came back though, in a very different way than the others. Traegok was torn into thousands, if not millions, of pieces, and yet he has managed to pull himself back together, influencing events from behind the scenes. Who knows how deep his web of intrigues really goes? You know, on that note, I find it really interesting because, like, the Traegok stuff sort of felt like it was ready to go off, especially in the frame of the Tribal Dominion, with, like, Null Island, that temple on Null Island getting raided, and you had what was going on with Gorthog and Gran, and sort of like their quarrel with Inara. Quarrel's not even really the right word. And then Amari, again, just kind of straight vibing, not knowing that the three of these characters are about to kill each other. Well, not really each other, but Gorthog and Gran felt like they were going to make a move. So 20 years passing. Again, the fact that nothing in that situation has happened in 20 years, to me, again, I don't know enough about what's going on yet. We don't know enough, but I feel like that's something that probably needs addressed in some way because, again, it really felt like something was brewing there. So to wait 20 years, it feels like Gran and Gorthog would be like, well, it's been 20 years and things are going okay, so, like, whatever. You know what I mean? It feels like something that would have been something that would have occurred earlier. But anyway, I'm interested in Korra here. And then there's Zindrak. It's Edale. Dude, the sisters coming together. Oh, these two ladies together. Yes. Path of the Circle. I like where it's going. We haven't seen our based orc queen, my based orc queen Amari yet. So we don't know what that path is going to be, but I'm loving this one. I've never been a big fan of Thanok, but Juenor's in a totally different place. Again, 20 years later, you've got a whole new generation of characters that are coming in, especially like the heirs of Juenor. Again, all of which I think are set up in the Tales of Arkain, which you can read on the forums. But these two sisters together are definitely intriguing to me more than Juenor, just because I personally don't feel a huge connection to either Thanok or Gardon's kids. He might still be dead, but the mark his demonic creations have left on this world... Wait, what did she say? Is indisputable. Okay. So they're still saying that he's dead, but it really seems like, I don't know, what was going on with Ibira? I get the impression she's like gathering artifacts to try and bring back Zindrak in some form or way, but who knows? Yes, there can only be one solution. The four must be destroyed once and for all. Kanos! Can't get out of here, Kanos. Who do you think you are? Zermatt killed you like 4 times, brother, okay? I don't know how I feel about him and these two ladies, okay? You got Edale and Korra together. Korra's got a cool new staff. And then this guy comes, I don't know, man. I don't know. But Kanos has always been very mysterious. It's sort of unclear, like, what's going on with him. If he's related to Progdaris, I've been saying it wrong all this time, Progadaris, all this time, if he's been, because he comes back just like Progadaris comes back. He summons Progadaris in the last Orc mission. It's unclear if there's some sort of connection there. Progadaris also another character with some newer short stories, or one at least, where he's linked up with Fiona Van Doors, and she's a Lord of Frenzied Flame from Elden Ring at this point. She just wants to burn everything down, so he's taken some interest in her. Again, I can't touch on every single short story. There's so much content out there you've got to go and check out. A lot of stuff with the Golden Guard, a lot of stuff with Iron Fist / Juwainor. Not as much stuff with the Tribal Dominion. I'd like to see more there, but I wrote 2 Tribal Dominion stories that take place post Second Void War that I think turned out pretty well. I like how this path, they're focused on removing the influence of the 4. Path of the Watcher, he's back, baby. The actions of the 4, my actions, have doomed this world a long, long time ago. There will be no apology. No price can repay the debt that I owe this world. All I can do now is undo the damage I have brought. No way. Okay, we ended Legends of Arkain, and I talked about how Eredon's redemption arc was beginning. I didn't actually believe that would be what Shar had in mind, but I think that's fantastic. I love the idea that Eredon wants to make amends in some way, but the question is, it's Eredon, so what does that even mean? He still has a massive amount of power, and he's always wielded it incredibly inappropriately. So even if now he's like, I'm going to set things straight, will that honestly be much different than what he was trying to do before, where he thought he was doing the right thing then? It's not like what he was doing previously was malicious in his mind, right? The outcome of it was pretty poor for most people involved, most humans and orcs and a lot of the undead involved. So now he just thinks like, what I used to do was wrong. Now I'm going to do it differently. Now I have a different goal, but are his methods honestly going to be any different? That's the question. I wish I could change the past. I sincerely wish I could have seen the folly of my actions. I desperately wish I would have prevented that the races from this age suffer the fate that we brought upon them. We being the Four, I suppose? They are not to blame, not all of them anyway. They never deserved this. Okay, with that in mind, though, he's talking about like what we did. Is what he's talking about? Is that really that different from the Circle with Cora and Edale saying we just need to remove the influence of the Four? Because that sounds like he just has remorse over the fact that the Four are toying with everyone in a way. So I wonder if his goal here is very similar to that of the Circle, except he gets to stick around and the other three have to go, which again doesn't really sound that different than pre-Second Void War Eridon. I don't know. It sounds like he has more empathy for normal people, though. I care not whether or not you believe this, but know that I will weep for every single innocent life that I must take to make things right. Their deaths are my sole responsibility, and I feel the weight of that responsibility now. Interesting. I mean, everything I said holds true. This is now the most interesting path that I've seen that interests me the most, because I grew to really enjoy Eridon a lot by the end of Legends of Arkain after hating him so much. So I feel like there's going to be pieces of the undead that are going to actively oppose him unless he can impose his will back upon them. Like the Dark Elves don't seem like they're going to jive with this. A lot of the Nexuses are not going to jive well with what he's talking about here, but it just depends on how much active control he can take over them. Not to mention Rahandir, who's got his own faction that they seem to have their own plans. Again, there's more short stories you can check out. This is the only path left to me. No more games, no more intrigues, no more treason. The liberation of this world has begun. Forge your legacy. It said that you choose. So is it going to be like multiple campaigns, like the books almost? There are debts to be paid indeed, my dear brothers. This world shall be mine, and I will be a better steward than Eridon ever was. You know, here's a question. Maybe Tregok is just actually based, and we don't know. He was just always framed as the bad guy. I don't know. I suspect that he actually is just a bad guy. Like Eridon, this is what I was talking about earlier. Eridon had what he thought was a noble goal and used unscrupulous methods to attain it. And then eventually has come around to the idea that what he did was wrong. I don't think there's necessarily a way he can undo that. I'm a sucker for a good redemption arc, but at the same time, if someone has done something so terrible, then you have to be like, well, does this character really deserve a redemption arc? I think it's fun in any case. But Tregok has clearly been framed for someone who has nefarious goals, and he knows it, and he sort of relishes it. But a lot of it is revenge. So much in Arkain is revenge. We've got, I would say, at least 6 ongoing revenge arcs that are left over from the end of the Second Void War. But again, 20 years is a really long time, and Shar clearly had a plan for that 20 years. He clearly had a plan for that 20 years, where something was going on it would be taking place from the perspective of Sir Praxius, and he had like a small company that followed him around. So surely there were a lot of big story beats that happened in that time period that I'm not sure how we're going to see, or if we're just skipping straight to the 20 years. And there's so much content in the short stories as well that's worth trying to absorb, but I don't know if most players would. I would hope so. I'm encouraging people to, but I'm just pointing that out to folks, like, check them out. But I'm wondering, I'm still unclear. What is this, a whole campaign? Is this a series of like mini campaigns and you pick who wins? Is it like the books where it's the same story but it's told, 3 or 4 different times to have a different outcome? I don't know. This is a teaser trailer, so discuss as you will. But I'm very excited. I do love me some Arkain. So let me know your thoughts below. Make sure to go give Shar some love on the teaser trailer video. And we'll see. We'll be keeping up with more news as it comes out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.